Quick show of hands. How many of you out there in my audience remember back in 2023 when the mainstream media came out and announced that the Chinese had flown a quote-unquote spy balloon over the continental United States with virtual impunity, and we couldn't shoot it down with an F-22 until it got off the coast of the Atlantic when it entered our airspace over Montana? Well, I think we can say now with virtual certainty that it wasn't a quote-unquote spy balloon, and that they weren't lying when they said, oh, it's probably just a weather balloon. Yeah, it's a weather balloon. It was a weather modification balloon. And now I've got the proof. It's all starting to make sense. You see, that balloon had a giant architectural frame attached to it that wouldn't have been necessary to do the kind of spying that they allegedly were doing, but it would be a great platform to drop an army of drones into the continental United States, bypassing customs. Now, why would they do that? Well, real simple. They wanted to spray something over the United States that they could get in the United States, but they couldn't get the drones to do it. You see, this is something that the Chinese are way ahead of us on. Now, real quick, this coming week, we are going to put up some brand new content over at the Florida Maquis Patreon channel. If you'd like to join us over there, it's only $1 per month. That's it, one single $. Even less if you sign up for an entire year, and it's fully refundable. No questions asked. First 90 days from now until well into next year, you can go over there and watch the hundreds and hundreds of videos that have never been seen on YouTube, and then make up your mind. If you want to continue to support, that's great. If not, that's great too. We have a $1, $5, and then we also have a $10 and $15 level. These are different level of videos, though I will warn you. Over the Patreon channel, they have content meant for people who are in control of their emotions and can think clearly and who are ready to take it to the next level. Now, let's get right to it. See, this is what it looked like underneath that balloon. There were these big solar panels, but then there was this massive metal architecture. There's nothing this quote-unquote spy balloon could have garnered intelligence-wise that they couldn't have garnered from a satellite. What did they have to do with this? Well, it's real simple. They wanted to drop an army of sophisticated drones that would then be picked up by operatives inside the United States, and they would be loaded with different chemicals. Now, here's the actual path of this spy balloon. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, almost a week it's spent over the United States. But funny thing is it went straight over the city of Asheville and Charlotte. And it got all the way off the coast of Myrtle Beach before we put an F-22 up and knocked it down. Now, you'd have to ask, why would we use an F-22? Well, real simple. The U.S. government knew there were drones aboard, and they didn't know which aircraft would be able to engage an army of drones and come away winning. See, they didn't know what kind of drones they were. This is what they look like. You see, this was the game the Chinese were playing. They're very good at asymmetric warfare. They wanted to drop these drones into the United States so that they could begin controlling the weather here. Because it's the whole idea of if a butterfly passes gas halfway around the world, it causes a hurricane on the other side. See, there's some truth to that. Meet the man behind one of China's biggest agricultural weather drone makers. Demand for agri-drones is rising because of the labor shortages in China. See, this is the entire goal. They want to be self-sufficient food-wise, but they need more rain in parts of their country, so they have to be able to command the weather. And they're very good at using drones to make people do what they want. As the China virus spreads, Chinese drones drop disinfectant and disperse public gatherings. See, this is something that they're way, way, way ahead of us on. Now, ready for this? Pentagon, puzzled by mystery drone swarms around military bases. Officials at Langley Air Force Base unsure of whether parade of unmanned vehicles were foreign powers snooping or the work of hobbyists. Now, those of you who think, well, it's just the work of hobbyists, you ready for this? You're going to love this. Flights lasted 17 days with the drones flying over the base about an hour after sunset. The number of UAVs, uncrewed aerial systems, fluctuated as they ranged in size. Now, you ready for this? They were flying at 100 miles an hour at 3,000 to 4,000 feet. Quick poll. How many of you out there know anybody who owns a drone? Ask them, and then get back to me down in the comments, if they know anybody who owns a drone that can, at night, after sunset, fly at 100 miles an hour at 3,000 to 4,000 feet with impunity over a military base and do it night after night after night for 17 straight days. Yeah, tell me another one. See, over here, let's see if I can find it. Here's Asheville. Here's Langley. And down here is where they shot the balloon down. Now, they also have drones, believe it or not, that can take off on land. And, abracadabra, can dive underwater and swim underwater and then launch into the air again. So it wouldn't be too difficult to have dropped those drones from that balloon, have them guided themselves to this little swamp right here, right on the Virginia-Carolina line, and then hide and wait until after dark, launch, and head straight up to Langley Air Force Base, buzz it, and then if need be, dive underwater and work their way back. Chinese engineers developed trans-medium drone that can fly in the air and swim underwater. Now, we're trying to play catch-up on this, but we just don't have the advantage they do with the huge amounts of labor that they have. I almost said something that got me demonetized there real quick. But make no mistake, this is the goal. This is the goal of China. This is the first time that I have heard of hurricanes being known more for their water than their wind. Oh, this picture? A lagoon in the Sahara Desert. Wait, what? Hold on. Monkey, what are you talking about? Yeah, there's large lakes and lagoons now that have formed in the Western Sahara Desert. Dubai, middle of the desert. Biblical flooding. USNI, China and Russia are waging irregular warfare against the United States. Believe me, this is not a joke. And if you don't believe me, believe India. China's quote-unquote climate tampering, rogue China must be stopped. China plans on weather modification, alarms India. Those of you who want to demonetize and shadow ban and say this is fake news or mis or disinformation. This was December 6th, 2020. Times now, 5.74 million subscribers. Back in 2020, the Indian government, was sounding the alarm bells about weather modification and the dangerous practices that China was using in their weather control plan. Let me read this for you. China has been working on modifying and controlling the weather for a really long time, and its ambition to cover an area that is more than 1.5 times the size of India is likely to concern country's neighbors. China's plans for the rapid expansion of its weather modification was announced by the cabinet on Wednesday night, which would increase 5-fold the world's biggest cloud seeding operation. The proposed enlargement is on scale that could affect regional weather patterns. Moreover, with the ongoing border tension between India and China, this raises the fears that the weather control and tampering plans of China could give it an edge, hampering troop movement in the mountainous region. This is not make-believe. This is China. This was a launch platform for Chinese drones. They couldn't get them into the United States by shipping them here, so they just dropped them. And then they had their operatives off of this architecture, just dropped them in and had them spin down and hover down to certain locations so that they could be armed up with silver iodide or whatever else, and they could spray. And they went right over, literally of all the paths. This was the most quizzical part about this. This spy balloon went over Montana, not much to see there. Northeastern Wyoming, not much to see there. Southwestern South Dakota, Nebraska, and then it went down the line between Missouri and Kansas and Nebraska here for a while, and then made a turn at Kansas City, came across Missouri, southern Illinois. I mean, there's just not much out here, militarily speaking, not much out here to see in any of these regions. I mean, you got Fort Leonard Wood. Leonard Wood is way down here. And I think Campbell is way over here. But then it goes over Asheville, North Carolina. And then all of a sudden, when it hits, it goes straight south and gets knocked down. Very strange. But now it makes sense. Now it makes perfect sense what they were doing. They're trying to manipulate weather on all sides of the planet to create a certain situation for themselves that is advantageous. And look, this is not anything new to them. These drones, these aren't the ones you get off Amazon that have about a 20-minute flight time or a 30-minute flight time on a battery. These things can stay up for a day. And they can carry huge payloads and stay up there for a very long time. This is actually not even a big one. This is a quadcopter. You should see the big octocopters that they have. The batteries that take almost 2 men to carry. And believe me, we could throw up a fleet of F-22s and they would have their hands full with 100, 200 autonomous drones carrying ordnance. F-22s are good, but there comes a point in time when they're going to run out of both human capital and ordnance. So, just saying, this all puts it all back together. We now have atmospheric tsunamis hitting the Western Carolinas, atmospheric tsunamis being dumped on the Western Sahara, atmospheric tsunamis being dumped on Dubai, China and Russia waging irregular warfare, according to USNI. Believe me, you're going to want to join us on Patreon this week. And the Indians saying, look, we have to stop China from controlling the weather. We have to stop China from controlling the weather. I don't know how much more proof you need. Truly. This is a Chinese event. This is asymmetric warfare 101. So I will leave it there. God bless every one of you who has joined us over at Patreon. Thank you so much. I very, very much appreciate it. Making a huge difference in my life. God bless every one of you. Pray for each other. Pray for me. I'll pray for you. Lift each other up. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.